From 1950 to now, the percentage of 30-year-olds that are married that are buying a house has absolutely collapsed. But the real standout for me is what happened in 1990. Let's unpack two huge things that were introduced by Paul Keating: banking deregulation and forced superannuation. The 1990s weren't just about cultural change. They were the start of a global credit revolution. What banking deregulation did was it set banks free. In Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, the US, they all deregulated their banking industry in the 80s into the 90s. That meant fewer restrictions on lending, entry of foreign banks into our markets, removal of interest rate controls, and easier access to credit for households. Sounds good in theory, but home loans became weapons. Suddenly, banks could compete on mortgage products, and lending went from cautious to very fucking aggressive. Loan-to-value ratios increased and mortgage debt exploded, especially for first home buyers. Real estate became the only engine of growth in Australia, and governments leaned on rising house prices to fuel economic expansion. Home ownership was pushed as the middle-class wealth vehicle. Banks made a fucking killing securitizing mortgages and growing the book. Risk offloaded. Responsibility, fuck all. The fallout for 30-year-olds, though, was credit was available, but prices rose faster than wages. Entry into the housing market was now about leverage, not saving. Those who didn't own already were going to be left behind. Marriage and home ownership split because the system broke the link. Banking deregulation was the accelerant. It didn't just allow the fire, it fucking fueled it. Then we added forced superannuation, which is one of the most under-discussed structural distortions in the Australian housing crisis. And people are going, how is that possible? Well, on paper, it's a fucking great idea. You'll retire with dignity. They'll make sure of it. There's some savings for you. But in practice, especially for younger Australians trying to buy a home these days, super has become a government-mandated wealth trap. Here's how it fits into the collapse of marriage and home ownership at 30 years old. Number one, it redirects income during prime buying years. Super currently locks up 11% of your gross income, soon to hit 12%. That money could be a home deposit used when people are in their 20s and 30s. Instead, it's funneled into markets where you have zero control, zero access, and pay management fees for life. For a first home buyer, that's tens of thousands of dollars trapped in an account that they can't use while they rent in a broken market. Number two, it pretends to be a wealth system while actually blocking wealth creation. Home ownership is still the single biggest wealth multiplier in Australia, but super is fucking mandatory. Home ownership isn't. You're forced to invest in ETFs and funds you don't even understand, but you can't use that same money to invest in the one thing that gives you long-term security, as in your own home. Number three, it feeds the bubble indirectly. Super funds invest heavily in real estate trusts now. Construction companies, banks, these entities benefit from rising housing demand. But you young workers out there, you're fucking funding it with your superannuation. You're renters and not an owner. Super becomes a double bind. You fund the system, but you're excluded from participating in it because you're funding it through superannuation. Super is anti-family by design. You can't use your super to start a family, pay for IVF, or stabilise your household finances, but you can use it to prop up commercial property funds, which are struggling increasingly post-COVID. It's a one-way contract. Give us your money, trust the system, and maybe we'll let you touch it when you're 67, except by then you'll own nothing, rent will have bled your savings dry, and the market you couldn't afford to enter will have been bought down by your own retirement funds portfolio. The bottom line is this: forced super was meant to protect the future. But what it's done instead is it's locked out a generation of kids from ever owning homes. It's not just part of the problem, it's one of the financial handcuffs wrapped in a bow. If you want home ownership back at 30, you've got to start by letting people choose whether they fund their own future or they build it themselves. Home ownership is the way you fund your retirement, not fucking superannuation controlled by people who you don't know and unelected boards taking billions of dollars out of our economy every single year.